1 year after my divorce, my ex-wife sent me a text. 8 words. We need to talk. Urgently. I stared at my phone longer than I should have. Long enough for my jaw to tighten. Long enough for memories I didn't invite to start creeping back in. At 56, you think you've learned which doors not to open. But some people don't knock, they just push. Tina Mercer, my ex-wife of 27 years. A woman who could sound calm while lighting a fuse. I knew better than to respond. My lawyer had drilled that into me months earlier. Don't engage, don't feed it. Silence is protection. But pride is a stubborn thing. It doesn't age out, it just gets quieter and more dangerous. So I typed back something I shouldn't have. Can't. I'm on a date with your sister. I hit send before my better judgment could catch up. For about 5 seconds, it felt good. Petty, sure, but honest, because I was on my way out the door. Marlene was waiting for me. I shut my phone off, grabbed my jacket, and told myself I was done thinking about Tina for the night. That was a lie, but it was one I needed to believe. I drove to the Cracker Barrel just off the interstate, the one with the squeaky front door and the gift shop full of things nobody ever buys on purpose. The parking lot was half full, which felt about right for a Tuesday night. Marlene was already inside, sitting in a booth, hands wrapped around a coffee mug like she was warming more than her fingers. She looked up when I walked in. "You look tense," she said. "Long day," I replied, sliding in across from her. She studied me for a moment. "Tina?" I nodded. "She texted me too," Marlene said quietly. "Said you were unstable." I let out a short laugh. Funny how urgent things get when control starts slipping. We ordered food. Meatloaf, iced tea. Simple, familiar. The kind of meal you eat when you're not trying to impress anyone. Around us, normal life hummed along. Families talking over each other. Retired couples splitting dessert. Truckers staring into their plates. Nobody knew who we were. Nobody cared. That kind of anonymity felt like oxygen. Marlene laughed at something I said. Not polite laughter, real laughter. And for a moment, the past stayed where it belonged. But when I got home later that night, my phone told a different story. Missed calls, unknown numbers, a voicemail I didn't play. I shut the phone off again and went to bed anyway. That was my second mistake. Because by sunrise, 2 sheriff's deputies were knocking on my front door. And that's when I realized something important. That text wasn't about talking. It was about starting something. The knock wasn't loud. That's what stayed with me. It wasn't angry or rushed. It was firm, confident, the kind of knock that assumes you're going to answer. I knew right away it wasn't a neighbor. I pulled on my jeans, slipped into my socks, and opened the door. 2 sheriff's deputies stood on my porch. Brown uniforms, one older, one younger. The older one smelled faintly of aftershave and cold air. He held a clipboard like it already knew my name. "Ray Mercer?" he asked. "That's me." My voice sounded steady, but my chest felt tight. The kind of tight you get when you're up on a ladder and suddenly realize the power isn't off after all. "Sir, we need to ask you a few questions." Behind them, a car rolled past, tires crunching on gravel. Across the street, Mrs. Keller's curtain twitched. In towns like this, police don't arrive quietly. They announce things without saying a word. They didn't accuse me of anything outright. They didn't have to. Words floated in the air. Harassment, unwanted contact, concern for safety. The kind of language that stains without touching. "We just need your side of the story," the younger deputy said. So I gave it. I told them about the text, about the divorce, about Marlene, about how I hadn't contacted Tina directly in months. I kept my answers short, clean, boring. Boring is safer than emotional. The older deputy watched me the whole time. Not suspicious, just attentive, like he'd seen this pattern before. After a few minutes, they thanked me and stepped back toward their cruiser. As they walked away, I caught Mrs. Keller's curtain twitch again. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about concern. This was about pressure. I didn't go back to bed. I stood at the kitchen sink staring out at the frost clinging to the edges of my driveway. The refrigerator hummed like it was thinking too hard about its job. My coffee had gone cold, but I drank it anyway. At my age, you don't waste things. I turned my phone back on. 3 new messages from Tina. I didn't open them. Instead, I called Eddie. Eddie and I had worked side by side for decades, pulling wire in places where one wrong move could end everything. He picked up on the second ring. "You sound like hell," he said. I told him about the knock, about the complaint, about Tina. There was a pause, the kind where you can hear someone deciding how honest to be. "You got a lawyer?" he asked. "I had one for the divorce." "You need one now," he said, "and not some billboard clown." He gave me a name. Darla. She doesn't scare easy, and she doesn't let people bluff. That was enough. By mid-morning, I was sitting in Darla's office, the smell of paper and burnt coffee in the air, telling my story to someone who didn't interrupt. When she finished, she leaned back and said something that stopped me cold. "This isn't about feelings, it's about pressure." And that's when I realized the knock at my door was just the beginning. Darla didn't raise her voice. She didn't soften it either. "This isn't about your feelings," she said, tapping my phone once with her finger. "It's about pressure. She wants a reaction. Anything emotional becomes evidence." I didn't like how right she sounded. "She asked to talk," I said. "Said it was urgent." Darla let out a short, humorless breath. "They always say that when they need something signed." That landed heavier than I expected. She leaned forward. "Has Tina asked you for a favor recently? Something involving paperwork?" I thought back. A voicemail from a week earlier. Her voice soft, almost friendly. "Just need to clear something up from when we were married." I hadn't called her back. Darla nodded like she'd been waiting for that answer. "She's creating a record," she said. "Police visit, vague posts, whispers, all of it makes you look unstable while she looks afraid." My phone buzzed. Kelsey, my daughter. I hesitated before answering, but Darla motioned for me to take it. "Dad," Kelsey said. Her voice was tight. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." "Why?" "Aunt Tina posted something about being scared, about protecting herself. People are commenting." My chest ached. "I'm handling it, I promise." After I hung up, Darla watched me carefully. "This is the part that hurts," she said, "when it reaches your kids." She laid out the rules like a checklist. No direct contact, no public explanations. Document everything. Stay boring. Boring wins, she said. By the next morning, the rumors had legs. I felt it before I saw it. When you live long enough in a place like ours, you learn when the air changes. Smiles pause too long, conversations end early. My first inspection of the day was canceled. No explanation. Then another. Then I saw the review. 1 star. Unprofessional, made me uncomfortable. No names, no details, just enough to make people wonder. I felt heat rise in my chest. I wanted to call the client, post my side, defend myself. I called Darla instead. "Don't touch it," she said immediately. "Screenshot it. Save the timestamp." "It's costing me work," I snapped. "I know. That's why you don't react." By lunchtime, I'd lost more appointments. I ended up at a diner I'd been going to for decades. The waitress poured my coffee without asking, then hesitated. "Are you okay, Ray?" she asked. I forced a smile. "I'm fine." But the lie tasted bitter. That afternoon, Marlene called. "She's telling people you're harassing her," she said quietly. I laughed once, sharp, humorless. Then she said something that stopped me. "How does she seem to know where you are?" Doubt flickered. Ugly, unfair. "Marlene," I asked carefully, "are you talking to her?" Silence. "I'm not feeding her anything," she said. "She asks like she's worried." "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have asked." "She makes everyone doubt themselves," Marlene said softly. That night, Darla called. "I pulled your credit report," she said. "There's an account on here you didn't open." My heart stuttered. "What kind of account?" "A line of credit. Recent. Substantial." The room felt suddenly smaller. And for the first time, I understood. This wasn't just about my reputation. It was about something much bigger.
Darla didn't ease me into it. She spread the papers across her desk like a mechanic laying out broken parts. "This line of credit was opened recently," she said. "It's tied to an LLC your ex-wife was involved with, and it's attached to your name." I stared at the numbers. They didn't feel real. They felt like someone else's problem until I saw the signature. My signature. Or something that looked close enough to scare lenders. "That's not my handwriting," I said. "I know," Darla replied, "but it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be believable." My hands started to shake. These were the same hands that had stripped wire without nicking copper, hands that never trembled on a ladder. Now they felt unfamiliar. "She used an old authorization," Darla continued, "something from when you were married. It should have expired, but she leaned on it anyway." I swallowed hard. "So what does that make me?" Darla met my eyes. A backup generator, something she could switch on when her main power failed. The words stuck. I went home and started digging. The garage smelled like dust and motor oil. I pulled down boxes I hadn't touched in years. Tax folders, old binders, paperwork Tina had always insisted on organizing. At the bottom of one box, I found it. A thin folder with her brokerage letterhead. Inside were copies of old deeds, loan statements, and a faded authorization form I barely remembered signing after a long shift. "Just in case," she'd said back then. I sat on the cold concrete floor and laughed softly. Not because it was funny, because it hurt too much not to. That night, Marlene came over. She stood in the doorway like she wasn't sure she should cross some invisible line. "She called me again," Marlene said, "asked me to sign something, said it would clear everything up." My stomach turned. "Did you?" I asked. "No," she said firmly, and then she told me I was choosing sides. "You didn't choose sides, she did." Marlene's shoulders sagged in relief. The next morning, Darla laid out the plan. No ambushes, no shouting. We let the paperwork talk. She explained it slowly. Subpoenas, records requests, timelines stacked like bricks. "She's speaking at a Chamber of Commerce luncheon," Darla said, "talking about ethics and trust." I let out a short breath. You can't make this up. That's where we end it. Public, clean, lawful. I wasn't looking for revenge anymore. I just wanted my name back. The day of the luncheon, I sat in my truck longer than I needed to, hands on the wheel, engine idling. Then I shut it off and went inside. Marlene was already there, perfect hair, perfect smile, working the room like she owned it. When she saw me, her smile flickered, just for a second. She took the podium and started talking about transparency, about doing things the right way. Darla leaned toward me. "Wait." She stood at the pause between sentences. "I'm Attorney Darla. I have documents that must be formally presented." The room went silent. Tina froze. And the truth, finally, had a microphone. The room went quiet in a way that felt heavy. Not shocked, not angry, just still. Darla placed the folder on the podium, one page at a time. Dates, signatures, timelines. The kind of truth that doesn't raise its voice because it doesn't have to. These documents show that Mr. Ray Mercer's name was used without his informed consent, she said evenly, to secure financing tied to an LLC associated with Miss Mercer. A ripple moved through the room. Tina's face drained of color. "This is harassment," she snapped. "He's obsessed." Before Darla could respond, Marlene stood up. Her voice shook, but she didn't sit back down. She asked me to sign false paperwork too, Marlene said. I refused, and then she turned on both of us. The silence thickened. A man near the front leaned forward, scanning the documents. Another followed. Then someone stood abruptly. "If this is accurate," he said loudly, "I'm pulling out, immediately." That was it. That was the sound of the floor dropping out from under her. Tina opened her mouth and closed it again. Her hands trembled on the podium. No tears this time, just panic. I stood. I didn't need to say much. "I just want my name back," I said. That was enough. Outside, the cold air burned my lungs. People spilled out in small clusters, suddenly very busy, pretending they hadn't just witnessed something unravel. Darla walked beside me, calm as ever. Marlene followed a few steps behind. I was halfway to my truck when Tina's voice cut through the air. "Ray!" I stopped, but I didn't turn right away. When I did, she was flushed with anger and humiliation, the polished mask gone. "How dare you?" she hissed. "You came here to destroy me." "You did that yourself," I said quietly. She pointed at me. "This isn't over." Darla didn't flinch. "Any further communication goes through my office. Threats are noted." Tina backed away, then turned and stormed off. My hands were cold, but they weren't shaking anymore. The weeks that followed weren't clean or easy. Real life never is. There were phone calls, explanations, paperwork, waiting. Some people believed me, some didn't. But slowly, it shifted. A client who canceled called back, an awkward apology. A new review appeared, honest, professional. My daughter called one afternoon. "I'm proud of you," she said. "You didn't lose your temper." That mattered more than she knew. Marlene and I kept things simple. Coffee, quiet dinners, no drama. One evening she asked, "Do you regret sending that text?" I smiled. It was the spark. It showed her she couldn't control me anymore. She nodded, and it showed me I didn't have to be afraid. Here's what I learned. At our age, revenge isn't about humiliation. It's about protection. Your name, your peace, your future. Silence isn't always strength. Sometimes it's just giving someone room to lie. The truth, real truth, backed by dates and paper, holds longer than any rumor. And no matter your age, don't let someone else write your story. Not ever.